So I want to talk about music, my music. I want to talk about, firstly, a compilation that spans 18 months roughly, from early 2023 through, I guess you could say, mid 2025. And I sort of conceived it as like a double CD would be, So max length, 79 minutes per disc. And I guess each half is roughly 78, 79 minutes. So it's kind of maxed out, but it doesn't go over that. And I'm currently in the process of doing a fairly, thorough analysis of each, like, song by song. And the reason I'm doing that is not just talking about the songs, but the album from which they come, the period, background information on various things. And actually, in my case, I don't just sort of like do an album of songs every year or two and, just sort of write 2 or 3 minute pop songs. And, this song was about this girlfriend I had, and that song was about how I'm angry about the war in Ukraine, kind of thing. I don't do this. I'm fairly prolific, as anyone who's visited this channel and spent time here would kind of maybe know or realize. And I work in various styles. I work alone. Pretty much I'm doing everything myself. But I think the music's fairly complex, particularly by this point in my, development. I don't want to say career because I'm not making money from it. It's not a career in that sense. But it's also more than a hobby. It's ikigai, right? I talked about that in another talk. But actually, I don't really just want to talk about the compilation because I'm going to be releasing that, and I might even do a separate talk on that, maybe. And I'm doing a write-up, which means I don't have to talk about it for an hour now, because I'm going to be sharing that text that I'm still working on. I'm actually still working on text for the first half, the first part, the first so-called CD, which is 2023 and part of 2024. And I'm like maybe halfway through. It's taking longer than I expected. I write fast, but I keep going back and revising and re-revising even before I move to the next. So it's taking me time. I'll work on it some more tonight. It's Saturday night. It's raining outside. I don't have any plans to go out. And really what I wanted to focus on in this talk, I said music, and that's right. And my music, and that's right. And I mentioned the compilation because, not only because I'm working on the text for that. Compilation is finished. I have a cover for it, and I started working, as I say, on the text part. But it's interesting because the compilation, just to finish this and to move to the next, it ends the end of the second part. I said like midway through this year. And it ends with material from Mandela's, is it Mandela's Butterfly? Yeah. It was like the Mandela effect and the butterfly effect combined. And Mandela's Butterfly, the track, which is a kind of almost a techno, almost like a IDM techno track with it's instrumental and has beats, and then from what that album would be or have been as I released it on YouTube, I was doing the Ozzy Osbourne covers. It was shortly after he had died, and I did Killer of Giants and No More Tears, and the last track on the compilation is Killer of Giants, which has a very strong political message. And so one thing I wanted to talk about was the transition that I feel, and this also was not intentional in any way. Like, the compilation ends there. I had actually compiled it several months ago when that was sort of my most recent material, you see. So I ended it there, and I could add on to it, but it's already 78, 79 minutes, and it's like kind of full. And then there are a number of improvisations. I did longer improvisations that I haven't like officially released any of those, but they're on the YouTube page, right? You could see videos, and I did audio versions for some of them. But after going to the studio and doing those sort of longer improvs, and I did the TK4A live show in Tokyo several months ago. Was it July, I guess? Yeah, July. And I was freaking out over the prediction for the earthquake at that time. It was around that time, because of the Tokara Islands, which they're still rumbling apparently. So who knows? The big ones could come anytime still. It's past that dream interpretation thing. But anyway. So after I did the Aussie covers, and I did Mandela's Butterfly, the song and the album and so on, and I ended the comp with that. And so that's July of 2025. It's now not quite late September, but getting close, right, edging toward today's the 20th. So we're in the latter part of September, and it's getting colder in Tokyo, and it's raining today. Yesterday was kind of cold, and today is also, there's humidity, but it's like at times it almost feels chilly. Anyway, again, if you're paying attention to this YouTube page, some people are, I guess. I've recently released 3 full albums worth, with titles and covers and the whole thing, of material. And the first was re-entitled. It was The Death of Love originally, and then I re-entitled it Quiet can't talk tonight. Quiet Wasteland. Maybe because I spent all day alone. I'm not talking to anybody today at all. I did go out, but I'm not really talking to anybody, which is fine. It's Tokyo life. But Quiet Wasteland, and that's like, a combination of sort of longer ambient pieces and improvisations with piano and ambient backing. And the song Death of Love, which I did 3 variations, 3 versions in different arrangements, 2 with piano and 1 without. And that's also spoken word rather than sung. And Sonny Yasuda's song from 2020 during COVID, he wrote Black Bird, not like the Beatles one word. I noticed I noticed actually recently, like I realized it's black space bird instead of blackbird, one word. But when I did my version in 2020 for piano voice, I decided to do a cover of it because I had done a remix of it for him. And I had also sung on one version with his guitar and backing tracks in my mix. But I did a piano voice version in 2020. My own version, I actually performed it live too at that time. And I re-entitled it Upside Down. I did a video. So this year I decided it's 3 years. No, it's 5 years since then. My God, it's 5 years. And my piano playing has gotten a bit better, a bit more proficient, and so I decided to do a slightly more complex arrangement for piano voice. And the recordings of that, basically, I just did in my room live, live meaning it's not MIDI even, it's just, just recorded on the iPhone like this for video, and then took the sound and then mixed it. And there were 2 versions I liked, and I have videos for those. I put them on, and the other ambient pieces. So that was the first one I posted anyway, that album. And then the second one I posted, actually I'd finished earlier. It was before I started rehearsing for my acoustic show I did in Tokyo. I haven't done many shows this year, but I did TK4A in July, and then in August I did an acoustic show. And then this month I did Fukuoka 2-hour show, right? So leading up to those 2 shows, the acoustic show, I compiled and created this acoustic album called Dark Night of the Soul. And one of the things that 2 things that distinguish it from some of the other sort of just like plain acoustic albums, if you will. Plain means either recorded at home or recorded in various locations kind of thing, like live or at home or in the park. I have some sessions I did of acoustic sessions in the park on like nice days. This is different because I added ambient backing to many of the tracks. And secondly, it's different because many of the tracks I recorded, they're acoustic, but they're with the classical guitar. Some of the tracks are with the guild. And so that was the second I put on YouTube. The third one I've most recently uploaded is Black Keys, White Keys, which obviously is a reference to the piano. I've noticed, it's really sad to me, but I guess this is just true anyway. It's a full album. It's like 50 some minutes, I think, or an hour, maybe over an hour. Maybe it's an hour and 5, I don't remember, but 8 tracks. Many of them are ambient backing with piano, kind of like some of the tracks on Quiet Wasteland, but they're quite different, I think, in style, to me anyway. And 2 vocal piano tracks and another version of White Pearl that I like, which is an instrumental piano piece with rain sounds in the background. And it has several hits now. It's under 100, but several for me is like over 50. But I've noticed, and I don't know if this is accurate, but YouTube tells me the average view time is 1 minute or less or something, or 3 minutes, or, it's not even, you get past the intro titles and listen to 30 seconds and then you flip to something else kind of thing. Maybe that's what people are doing with these talks too. So maybe nobody's even gotten this far and nobody's even listening to this part of the talk. I have no idea. Doesn't matter. The point is I'm doing it for myself, including the talks, but you just got to do it, But anyway, I'm quite happy with that. It's mostly improv, and like I say, 3 composed pieces. One is White Pearl, which is a composed piece, but it's a bit improv. Everything has a bit of improvisation in it, even the composed pieces. And The Ocean, my piano arrangement of the IMX song, IMX, which I quite like, and it ends with Broken Glass, which is a classic for me, piano vocal. I've done it both as Marc Lowe and as This Dark Shroud. So that's number 3. And number 4 I haven't yet uploaded is called Black Eyed Memories. Most of the tracks are uploaded in video form, and that's again a combination of piano pieces and acoustic pieces, so it kind of bridges the styles or the gap between the others. You have Dark Night of the Soul is all acoustic and Black Keys, White Keys is all piano. The first LP I think is all piano, although some of it's instrumental and some of it's... Is that right? I think so. Anyway, Black Eyed Memories has songs for piano vocal. It has some covers. It has Calling You on it. And it has guitar pieces on it, and I performed my own song from 2016, Doppelganger, which I hadn't done in a long time, and I did it on the classical guitar. Again, there are videos for these, but it's on the LP, and I put on Zombie, which was my acoustic version of the Cranberries song, and also some piano improv and one electronica track. I don't know if anyone's listening to this or cares, but those 4 albums for me, and I realized after the fact, because like just the timing of it, like the compilation ends with, right, Mandela's Butterfly and the Killer of Giants, the Ozzy cover, and those tracks are very much, I guess you could say, composed, or I mean, they have a loose aspect to them, but they're electronic and they're recorded in, MIDI on, with like even Killer of Giants, I did vocals separately and put in backing tracks and so on. The newer material, mostly, not all of it, some of it is recorded properly in MIDI and with backing and synth and whatever. But firstly, there's not much, if any, there's only a tiny bit of drum or beats on any of it, the newer material. Like the acoustic material doesn't have, and I think Black Keys, White Keys has no drums on anything. I don't remember the exact title now, but the Future, Mole of the Future, I think. That's instrumental, and it's electronica, and it has some samples and stuff that I took at Nagoya Station. The video actually is Nagoya Station. That has a bit of electronic beat in, but mostly they don't for these 4 LPs. And that's a little bit more like the early half of 2023 when I was doing piano things and acoustic things and not doing so many beats. And then that's when I got the itch to do it, and I ended up reviving This Dark Shroud in the summer of 23 because of that. But this time around, it's just, I was rehearsing for the acoustic show, and then later the show, the 2-hour one-man show I did at Yutero in Fukuoka, which I was planning on really doing a lot of sort of piano pieces, and I practiced a lot, and I even arranged things that I didn't end up doing, like the track Inside, which is on Black Eyed Memory, and Death of Love I planned on doing, and I decided not to do it because just the theme and everything, I just thought maybe I didn't need to perform that song in front of all of my old friends because it's about a past love and a breakup that happened forever ago, and some of those people maybe know who I'm singing about, so I just felt it was not maybe necessary to do it. But it's on the album, and I'm happy with it as a piece of music or art, if you will. I felt the need or the urge or the need to do it, so I did it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what art is. So, but I felt a shift, or I feel a shift, and I've actually completed yet another LP that hasn't been shared anywhere yet, including BandCamp nowhere. I put up one version of the improv I did here a couple nights ago, which there are actually 2 versions of that in audio. One is the mix that's in the video, and the other is another mix that I did in Logic and mixed layered differently. It's actually cleaner, if you will, has less effects on it, and it's clearer. The spoken word is clearer. It's different, actually. Even though it's just from the same recordings, it sounds quite different. It's quite a different arrangement mix. And I also did another piece that I haven't shared anywhere, which was another piano improv, and I have 2 versions of that. One is just piano, which ends the LP, and the other has some spoken word on top of it with the piano. And then finally, the in-studio improvisation I had done with Sunny the day of our live performance, but which is quite different from the one that we did at Yutero. I use that I quite like it as audio, actually, listening to it. It almost sounds like a free jazz session. There's no vocals in it. He played electric guitar, kind of some jazzy chords in there, I think, the way he was playing. And I played 49 key Juno rental piano. This was at Utero, or the studio there in Fukuoka, and I played a bit of guitar unplugged and just improv, and my flutes a bit, and the noise synth, the Castle 2.0 with effectors, and that's cool. And so that's on the album. So it's actually like a full-length album. It's only 5 tracks. It's 2 variations of the 2 pieces, the piano and the improv I did in my room with guitar and spoken word and so on, and then the improv from the studio, not the live one, which I played with the mix a bit. So again, that has no beats, and a lot of it's improv and piano, and there's some guitar. So yeah, for me, the compilation is, and of course I've done so many styles over the years, and there have been periods, and the compilation also doesn't include everything. I mean, there are other things that I didn't have time or space to include on that would have been, maybe a different sound for me than the focus. And the focus of that compilation is on, I guess you could say, electronic and experimental tracks. And that'll be for later. I'm not going to talk about it in detail now. So yeah, it's shifted again a bit. And I mean, I've been doing a lot of improvisation, but like where, for a while I was doing this kind of thing where I go in the studio for, I do like an hour, 40, 50 minutes, an hour of improv with, using the castle and then piano, and then using the looper for my voice. And then, maybe if I'm in the studio playing the drums at times, or like at TK4A I did. It's not that kind of improv I'm doing these days. It's more piano improv with ambient backing. It's more stripped down, I guess you could say. And I'm doing a fair amount of acoustic and acoustic improv, using the flutes, of course. But again, not with effectors so much like in the studio, not looping them, not putting tons of reverb and looping them, but just playing the flutes. Maybe I put a bit of reverb on the mix, but it's more of a clean sound. And so I guess we'll see what's next. I can't say what direction I'm moving in, or moving out of, or into, or out of. It just depends which way the wind's blowing in my mind and what happens. So that comp, I think it's called My World, and it's 2023 to 2025, and it's literally the early 23 to mid 25, as I've explained. And then the 4 albums, which the 4th one, Black Eyed Memories, will be uploaded probably within the coming days. And once I have the write-ups done for the first part, and then the second part of the comp, I'll be sharing it on BandCamp first, and eventually maybe here, and we'll see. I'm really hesitant to publish anything on Spotify anymore. I don't want to talk about that in detail, but I don't like what they're doing. As many artists are pulling, even major artists I've heard, like first it was Godspeed You, Black Emperor, and then Massive Attack are pulling their music. So I don't know whether or not I'm going to pull what is already there, because it could be a huge hassle for me with my distributor. I have to see, but I might just leave it. But I think if I do share more new music via streaming, and I have like these 4 albums and a 5th and other things, there are plenty of things, but I'm not sure I want to put them on Spotify. The last one that is already scheduled, and it's included in Spotify before all this happened, is There Is No Hell, which John Majori actually interviewed me about that several months ago. September 25th marks the 30-year anniversary of Bowie's One Outside, and that's a tribute. It's the 3rd of 3. I did a triptych, and so it's going to be published. I say gonna be. That's the only American accent I have, I think. It's going to be published on September 25th. via all the majors, including Spotify, for better for worse, because it was already scheduled. I didn't pull it or anything. And it's also going to be Lazy Man's Way. It's going to be published in slightly different order and format than I had originally put it on YouTube, because it's a long story. I got this guy who was like saying you can't publish this because etc. And when I had explained it before to other representatives, they understood and they're like, oh, that's fine, and they approved it. But this one guy wouldn't approve it. I said okay, and I pulled it, and then I reconsidered it and I reordered it. I didn't change or edit any of the tracks. I would never do that, but I took off one, or maybe it was two, I don't remember, the segs, the character voices. One of them was Baby Grace. I had to pull it because of that. And I changed the order because it didn't work the way it had been before with that in it. So now it's like the songs from outside the covers, and then the 3 parts of this suite I created of medleys and spoken word and so on. Which brings the so-called story more up to date, if you will, in my version, which is true also of the previous 2, Some Kind of Future 2.0 and In the Minotaur's Lair, which Lost in the Minotaur's Lair, those were published previously. Lost in the Minotaur's Lair in 2023, and Some Kind of Future at the beginning of this year. And so the 3rd part will be on September 25th, but I don't have anything else scheduled currently, although I have a lot of material, as I've discussed, for publication via streaming. And like I say, if I do it, almost definitely I'm not going to put it on Spotify the next time. So my catalog that's there now, it's there for now, but we'll see how things go. So that's my music talk. There are plenty other things I could talk about, but I thought maybe I would just do a music talk right now. Thanks.